I sincerely tell you that death does not exist. As I was crossing, the car came from the other direction. I felt the impact and I screamed from the shock because the blow was very powerful. My body was found on the rubble of the highway. Suddenly, I realized I was above my body. It was covered in blood everywhere. I saw these four figures of light. I recognized the Prophet Muhammad. I recognized the Lord, Jesus. I recognized Sheba. There was this fourth figure, a tall woman who was radiant, shining with a very strong light. I would say she's the mother of everyone, of all humanity. And then they gave their approval.
The A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast.
Before my near-death experience, I was a simple man, not particularly searching for anything spiritual. I was working in the Sahara in southern Algeria, far from everything. Then there was that accident I went through. In 2002, on August 23rd, everything changed. That day, I didn't work. I went out to the city to do some shopping. It was dark when I returned. The bus dropped me off right next to the place where I worked. It was dark because of the bad weather. There was wind and sand blowing. The diagonal lamps of the building went out. So I didn't see when I was about to cross the road. I didn't see the car that was coming. Probably it was because of the bad weather. Then, with the bus engine still running where I got off, as I was crossing, the car came from the other direction. According to the local security services, the driver of the car that hit me said he was driving at over 80 kilometers per hour. So, I just saw the moment, the headlights light, it flashed directly into my eyes. It blinded me. I felt the impact and I screamed from the shock because the blow was very powerful. My body was thrown far away. According to the report, more than 8 meters into the rubble beside the highway, because it was a national road. It was the highway I was crossing. My body was found on the rubble of the highway. So, the moment my body was lying on the ground, I felt my consciousness, more like an expansion of consciousness. I saw everything around me, and it was much clearer than before. I no longer felt that pain, and I saw the moment when people came running. Right next to the police station of the place where I worked at the hotel, people were shouting to call for help, saying, "Your co-worker has had an accident." At that moment, I tried to move myself away from the road because I saw a truck coming. I was afraid it would run over me. I tried to cover my head with my left hand because my right hand, the whole right side, was injured. So there was a young woman who appeared right above my head, over my body. I didn't recognize her. I just felt her hair brushing against my face. She asked me, "Why are you hiding your face?" I told her I was afraid the truck was going to run over me. She told me no, it's not a truck. The truck is still far away. It's a light that's there to protect you. So then I saw, she told me, "Look." I looked, and I saw this rectangular shaped light that covered the entire perimeter of the accident. I felt this sensation from then on. I had no pain. The pain was gone. My body was bleeding everywhere. She secured all the parameters of the accident. At that moment, she told me not to worry, not to be afraid, that this light was there to protect me. So, she comforted me, she reassured me. In just a few moments, the emergency services arrived. An emergency vehicle was already there. As luck would have it, it was a client, an officer from the National Gendarmerie who was coming on assignment to the hotel. So, they put my body in the car. The moment the car started, just a few moments later, I felt it because I was overwhelmed. I had blood running down my throat. My throat was blocked. I had a lot of blood. I told the driver that I couldn't breathe anymore. He asked me, he knew I was dying. He told me to repeat the Shahada, meaning the two well-known phrases we recite in Islam, Shahadu and La ilaha illallah, Shahadu and La Muhammad Rasulullah. I told him I'd already done it. We just need to hurry. We really need to hurry so we can get to the hospital. At that moment, the young woman stepped in again and said, "Don't talk. Whatever you do, don't say anything, and don't close your eyes." At that point, just a few seconds later, the people in the car had completely disappeared from my field of vision, as well as the young woman. I saw just a kind of tunnel, a dark tunnel, not completely black, and from time to time, a little light would appear, like cracks. As we moved toward the hospital, a light appeared completely. That's when I saw my own physical body lying there on the stretcher. Suddenly, I realized I was above my body. I could see the medical station. I saw my coworkers who were there and who had come with me. We arrived at the hospital and laid my body down on the gurney. The doctor was unhappy because it was the weekend, a Friday, so there was only a skeleton crew at the hospital. So, right at that instant, the doctor signaled to set the fracture back in place because I had a fracture of the tibia, the perineum, and my right leg. The ribs were also missing, the right costal arch. Numbers 4 and 5 here. That's this rib of the costal arch. I can quickly say that the whole right side was damaged. It was seriously injured. At that moment, when the doctor set the fracture back in place, there was another nurse who stepped in. They showed me because the x-ray of the fracture was visible. I told him that the fracture isn't perfectly aligned. It's off by a few millimeters. The big doctor, who is actually a nurse, asked what was going on, why the anesthesia hadn't worked, and he put a thoracic belt on me. At that moment, the young woman appeared and told me, "Come on, it's time to go." We left, and when we did, I found myself in another hospital, different from the one I was in before on Earth. It's another hospital where everyone was shouting. I could hear the patients shouting down the hallway, all the way to the room where they put my body. I was literally screaming out loud from the intense pain, honestly. And I heard, at the end of the hallway in that hospital, a woman's voice calling out, "Please, make way. The Lord is coming. Please, step aside. The Lord is coming." At that moment, I heard footsteps, people walking. They arrived in front of the room where I was, where my body had been placed. I saw these 4 figures of light. I recognized the Prophet Muhammad. I recognized the Lord, Jesus. I recognized Sheba. There was this 4th figure, a tall woman who was radiant, shining with a very strong light. But it wasn't blinding. I would say she's the mother of everyone, of all humanity. I immediately felt that I was a part of them and they were a part of me. It's truly a feeling that's utterly and completely different, something you can't describe with our human language. It's a love, truly and honestly. It's a deeply shared love between us. Let me be very clear about this. It was significantly more intense than what you would normally feel or experience on Earth. They asked the question. They said, "The Lord has already come," and I answered, "Yes, my Lord, but this time I'm really in pain." That's when they placed their hands on my chest. Everyone came, rushing to place their hands on my chest. Jesus told me, "Now you have grace. You will no longer be in pain. Now you have grace." That was the first word I heard from the Lord Jesus. Afterwards, the great lady told me, "Get up." and follow the path of the Lord. Follow the way. At that moment, I saw the same life. I was, at the same time, reliving the entire journey of my life from the beginning up to now, back to childhood. At that moment, I felt a sense of being wrongly judged, because here's what I said at that moment. I said, why, after so much suffering that I've gone through in my life, is it always me who gets judged? In that case, I also want to judge others, the people who have hurt me in life. At that moment, I received an answer. I haven't admitted it, not in the experience, not in the story I told. I kept that answer to myself. I still haven't admitted it. And then, afterwards, when I got up, I felt a lightness in my body. I looked behind me and saw my body lying there. It was covered in blood everywhere, but I got up like a silhouette, just like all the others. They showed me certain boundaries that shouldn't be crossed in that place. At first, I noticed the other silhouettes. I could tell them apart by the brightness of their light. Some were a bit dark and mysterious, and others were really powerful, moving, and captivating. Then they showed me with the young girl to go see certain interesting places. The young girl got involved in the process because they asked me what would happen if I crossed certain boundaries or limits in those situations. No one would be able to come and get me. So, at that point, she stepped in, the kind one who acted as my spiritual guide and protector throughout this whole experience. She stepped in and said, I can bring him back. I know the way. At that moment, they were having a meeting, discussing it, and then they gave their approval. As soon as they gave their official approval, she gently told me to hold her hand tightly so that we could start off together, side by side. At that very moment, right when we started off, I noticed that the ground beneath our feet was a fascinating mix between red earth and something that looked like crystal. But the further we went, the more crystalline and white of the ground became. We arrived at a large platform. We saw that there were but thousands and thousands of other human species were forming silhouettes that you could make out, of course, always with the light. Some were dark, some were bright. Then, after that, we had the opportunity to witness impressive displays from each of the various human species, showing the knowledge and the shortcomings they had exploited. All of these different human species, they gather around us, the humans, at that moment. They send us an epic sky, like here, like on Earth, with a few clouds, a bit of mist from time to time, but otherwise, it was clear. It was a sunny sky. They showed us all of human knowledge, honestly and truly, indeed, the great and distinguished experts who carefully named and defined our world. For example, scientists, doctors, researchers, all the prominent figures, including great artistic personalities. Not to forget, we were easily recognized, me and the young girl as well, because we recognized certain personalities we already knew from our life on Earth. Then, a few moments later, the sky turned completely black and became dark. The young girl told me that now it was time to go back. We had to leave. We had nothing left to do here. At that moment, I understood why she was holding my hand. She asked me to hold her hand because at that point, I couldn't see the path. At first, when we arrived, I could see the path, but she couldn't see it. But when we were coming back, it was the other way around. She could see the path, and I had lost everything. I lost my sense of direction. Then, after that, we came back. We arrived at the same spot where we had started. Standing in front of us was this tall woman who asked me directly, "Did you recognize her?" She was obviously talking about the young girl. I told her yes. She told me, "That's my daughter. Take care of her. She is my daughter. You have to take care of her." Then, after that, she told me, "Don't forget that I am everywhere." Those were the last words I heard. And then I came back to the room where I was, at the hospital, back to earthly life. The moment I actually returned to my body, things really changed radically in my life. To be honest, I don't see life the same way as before. With the return of all these abilities that I brought back with me, my mediumistic abilities, including the ability to make contact with the deceased, which is, as you can imagine, really quite exhausting for me. I had this strong extrasensory feeling, this deep connection being established between myself and something beyond, directly with the source of knowledge. I had this clairaudience, this clairvoyance, but I see life as before the experience. When it comes to sharing my experience, you should know that I only shared it within small groups, a handful of people, groups that seem to be about sharing experiences. Honestly, only with people from the Western world, because they were the only ones who knew, people who were familiar with, who had some idea about Morini's experiences. Otherwise, apparently, here in Algeria, or at least where I lived, up until now, no one knows that I went through this experience. I'd really like to share this message because generally, we've always been confused about the fundamental principles. When it comes to the fundamental principles of creation, we've never made a distinction. That's why we can no longer really clearly understand things. The principle of creation is essentially to bring order and to understand what existed before creation, as well as during and after. I'd like to clarify this point. There is a single source, and every path is just a reflection from the same source of creation. So, love is the most important thing in life because it's the most important principle. It's the sacred principle in life because it's not really a feeling, to be honest. It's something that was already there before all of creation. For me, death doesn't exist. That is to say, after the physical body finally stops functioning, our consciousness continues to live on, persisting in another dimension. What I understood is that beyond physical death, consciousness continues. It becomes free, lucid, and connected to a knowledge that no longer passes through thought. What I experienced is not a belief. It's a direct experience of what comes after death. It's the continuation of everything that has already been before, of everything that has already begun. I sincerely tell you that death does not exist. Well, thank you.
This has been the A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.